Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell, and welcome to Moscow. And welcome to a bit of a food-related video with a bit of a twist. We're going to go check out an expo today. Let's go. This is actually the map of the two main expo halls that we're going to go for a walk around. I believe there's about 2,000 different vendors here in different forms. And this is Krasnogorsk Expo Center in the northeast of Moscow. Unfortunately, it became a little bit more famous a couple of years ago when they had a very devastating attack. It was actually not in the Expo Center where I am here, it was in the next building, which was the Expo Hall. And this is Hall 14. It's a very large territory. If you might have seen other videos that I've made before, and lots of people coming and going. This is the first of 3 days at this event. So there is still people arriving, people getting the maps, people getting their lanyards and registration. Well, we can head on inside right here. So as I said, the event's called WorldFood Moscow. And I will say that this is a very busy event. And it focuses primarily on companies that make food, manufacture food, distribute it, package it. And what a lot of the companies want to do that are here is they want to find some kind of distribution, whether it's here in Russia or whether it's internationally to other countries. So there's a lot of countries who are coming to attend this who want to do what is commonly called B2B or business to business. And there is endless booths. And what I'll try and do is walk around a few interesting ones and also point out some things that perhaps are interesting for the video. And what is interesting for me is to see a lot of these companies that are actually the main wholesaler of something or the producer of a certain product. So you'll see here apples. So all they're here to do is sell apples, and that's it. And of course, part of coming to the booths, you can understand about their harvesting, about how they do their packaging, how they do their shipping. They even show you the types of crates that you can get your apples in. So as I walk around, I will try and point out to some of the different countries that are represented here, because you may notice it from some of the signs. But I think it's super interesting just to understand the dynamics of this expo, because there is 38 different countries represented amongst all the different vendors. So it's a really big deal for Russia and the neighboring countries, and then countries as far away as Africa, Asia, the Middle East. So let's have a look around a bit more. They actually have a stand here with bananas. Now what's really interesting is there isn't a banana in sight. So it's a very big booth, mind you. And they are importing and distributing bananas in Russia. Now what makes it more interesting is the fact that they're coming from Ecuador. And Ecuador accounts for about 95% of all the bananas that are sold in Russia. And it's just staggering to think that it's that high of a percentage. And they're here trying to find new companies who want to import bananas to sell in their possible supermarkets, or perhaps even to find people from other countries. So for instance, where we're seeing countries that are represented here like China, the United Arab Emirates, they are also walking around and wanting to do business as well. So it's so fascinating. They have some stands here from Egypt as well. Of course, being that it is a World Food Expo, it is very influenced by companies that have come here, and actually the Chamber of Commerce and industry from different countries have come along and set up entire stands like you see, and then different manufacturers have individual booths set up. Tunisia right here, and then over on this side China as well. Now there is quite a lot of booths from China, and they all have something slightly different, and a lot of them are very small, what I would call micro companies. So they're importing or they're exporting only one thing. So for instance here, walnuts. The other guy just before had mandarins. There's somebody here with dried fruits and vegetables. So there is a lot to take in as you walk around. Maybe we want some melons. So this area over here, it predominantly has, well, I was going to say fruit and vegetables, but then as you walk around, there's a mix of things. Seaweed. Who would have thought that there is a seaweed factory somewhere in the world, and they're exporting seaweed around the world. Check that out, dried corn. That's very interesting. So you'll see here, Ministry of Commerce and Industry of the Government of India. So even India has some stands as well. So lots of things like nuts and spices. So these little individual stands. So it's not about the fact that they're wanting to sell something right here at the counter. They want to get those connections. They want to get the companies who would want to import in bulk amounts. Foods of Vietnam. This is interesting. I've actually got stands on either side right here. Cashews. Check out those blocks of them. Also a stand with some alcohol, Vietnamese alcohol. Kumquat cane juice. That's interesting. I've also got some spices as well. So it just keeps on going as I walk around. Now, the video could get a little bit long. And just the amount of people that are here, and people that are not just me with a camera. There is a lot of people that are heads of companies. They might be brand managers for sectors of the supermarket industry. You can get some different snacks. We've even got some fruit right here. Is this dragon fruit? I think it is. Wow. So there's quite a lot to understand. The Scandalist. I think this might be an energy drink of some kind. World domination. That's what he's saying. Can there be world domination by an energy drink? Well, let me know. I thought just for a minute I'd actually stop at this energy drink stand, because it's always interesting to know a little bit about the companies. And this is actually manufactured about 15 minutes from my house in Moscow region. And it's just so interesting that I was thinking it's manufactured maybe in another city, and it's literally up the road. from where I live. So there is actually a mixture of energy drinks and then also what they call lemonades. There is quite a lot of rules coming into the Russian market now which restrict the sale of energy drinks to people under 18. So they're obviously now wanting to find new markets by creating these spiked lemonades. They're really interesting. This is super interesting. Now, this is something that's a little bit interesting just to explain. And this is basically speed dating. However, it's speed dating for retailers. And there is 48 tables set up right here across this whole room. And then all these people right here, these are mostly companies with products. And then sitting down at these tables are all the different buyers for different companies. And all of the different supermarket companies, retail companies. And you can book a time to sit down here and speed date them for a few minutes, pitch your brand, pitch your product, and hopefully make a connection. But just have a look at how many people want to get in here, because to be able to get a couple of minutes at a table with somebody from X5, somebody from Magnet or the bigger chains is not easy. But this is something on a whole different level. Has anybody heard of retail speed dating before? So that right behind me is something very cool. And of course, the whole point of this entire expo is to bring together buyers and sellers. And where people have booths, they of course hope that the buyers will walk around and come to their booth. But you can literally go to them by making an appointment at the particular place you want. There's actually a map here, so you can choose the person that you want to speak to, and you get a time to sit down with them, and no matter what brand or product you've got, you can try and sell it to them. There is actually some Russian companies here as well. Of course, I'm probably showing a lot more of the international companies because the way they've got these halls set up, it's by country or by region. And they've got stuff here from PEM region. So different food items and things that are locally produced. Snacks. So you can even get some chips. I think also different spices as well. Really cool. It really is a lot to take in as you walk around and try to understand what the different stands are selling or manufacturing. So there's no physical sales taking place here. It's just companies dealing with other companies. And have a look. Q8 is here. So how many people wonder what products you can get from Q8? They have just the food containers, which is interesting. So there is a lot of non-food related companies here who are also coming to promote what they do for a business. So it's really fascinating to see some of the manufacturers of packaging or things like cans for food as well. Product of Kuban. So there is literally stand after stand. And I think you need all 3 days here just to get yourself around all the areas. Korea, check that out. All I really know as food from Korea is the ramen noodles. That's my extent. What do they have? They've got dried fruits, nuts, I think some different teas as well. So all the companies have got QR codes so you can look them up and figure out perhaps what you want. So there will be people that are actually buyers walking around, and then of course all the stands that are selling things. Egypt as well, right next to Turkey. So the United Nations are all represented here. Tunisia. How cool to see everybody quite literally side by side. Just to see Korea. I wasn't expecting. Now there is, I think it was 28 countries that are here in some extent. And the thousands of people that have come to this. And a lot of people will come back tomorrow because you can't get around this whole place. It would be impossible. Turkey. A lot to take in. I really hope this is an interesting video and perhaps eye-opening for a lot of people, seeing so many countries represented here. And this is one of the main food expos annually here in Russia. It's been held for a lot of years. And I've been to quite a few of them over the years that I've lived here. And the dynamic changes and shifts with different countries that want to come to Russia and also want to present here to try to find a way to sell their product to the Russian Federation and to other regions beyond where we're standing here in Moscow. As I've been walking around, I was thinking possibly there might be some Australian items here somewhere, and there is actually a booth here that's actually from China that has nuts, and they've got them in different packaging. However, if you look really closely up here, there is different types of macadamia nuts. Place of origin, Australia. And then all of these ones on this lower shelf are from Australia as well. Actually, there's some from South Africa, some from America. But wouldn't you know that there's some Australian products. So basically what happens is they get produced and then exported to China, and then they end up in boxes just like this in bulk, and then they get re-exported out of China to other countries. However, they're from Australia. I just want to give a little shout out here to this stand from the Emirates, and I think more specifically Dubai. And there's a stand here called Yalla Yum. And as I was walking around just now, the gentleman who's sitting down there is actually my subscriber, and he found out about this expo from watching my video. And here they are. They've got freeze-dried fruits. So if anyone had these before, let me know. And this is a Dubai-based company that are looking for distributors here in Russia. And that's my subscriber right there. I really have to show this booth right here from Indonesia. Now, if you might have watched my channel, I've made quite a lot of videos in Bali before, and I've actually even shown some supermarkets in Bali as well. So it's really interesting to see they have a stand here. I think it's actually a couple of different companies. So it's the Ministry of Trade of the Republic of Indonesia, and then they brought some different companies over with stands and some of the different products. I wonder, where is Indomie? Now, the one thing that I think we know in Russia very well is this Kopiko. These are the candies right here, and then you can also get the coffee. We can actually buy these in almost every supermarket in Russia. I think everybody knows it as a brand. But they've also got a lot of other snacks, biscuits, even there's some mints right there. But how cool. So I'm so surprised to see the Indonesian counter right there. So the people that are actually at the booth are people that have flown over from Indonesia, particularly from Jakarta. And then they've actually got some of the staff there that are brought in as translators. And it's actually Indonesians who live here in Moscow, and most of them are all students, and they come and help out at the booth. And it's so refreshing to see them. They weren't actually at this expo previously, so this is the first year they've been here. That's why I was a little bit surprised to see the stand. So I wonder, for everybody watching, what you think of these sorts of expos and the fact that there is so many countries represented here. As I've walked around, I don't think I've reached or seen all 28 of them. So they are somewhere here, and they're basically set up in clusters. So you'll see here all of the companies from Turkey, and then again on this side some of the companies from China, and so much gummy candy. Check that out. Gummy pizza, gummy donuts, and all of these very high in sugar snacks. I mean, there is stand after stand of them. I think a lot of people may know Warheads, how strong they are, and there is just so many brands on show, and you can literally just walk around all day just looking at candy companies. I was just spending a few minutes chatting to one of the ladies here at the stands and talking about how there is so many gummy candy manufacturers represented here. And I don't think outside of China they produce these anywhere else. So if anybody knows different, let me know, because just the amount of companies that are represented here. Now, what these companies are doing, so this one particularly, they manufacture the candy for companies that would then export them to different countries. So you'll see up on the stand here, Costco Wholesale, and they're also producing the candy under license from the brands, which is quite interesting that they can then produce them purely for export. Gummy dinosaurs. And that's why you're seeing a lot of the companies with English branding or English writing on, because they're producing things that are purely for export out of China. It's a little bit later now than when I first arrived, and you'll see slowly there's a little bit less people. As I walk around, I'm actually slowly walking towards the exit. There's this very large Saudi Arabia build out here, and it's actually really huge. National Center for Palms and Dates. And they've got, I'd have to say maybe 8 or 10 companies at least that have got dates, quite basically, and different types of them, different varieties of them, also some, I guess, date honey down there, and there's just booth after booth of dates. I really do wish to actually get a few of the different people on videos. However, not everybody wants to be on this particular video versus when I've been to some of the sporting events recently. And the guy was just telling me right there that there's only 2 things that are getting exported from Saudi Arabia, and it's basically oil and dates, and that's it. As I make my way out of WorldFood Moscow, I think we're going to have a nice sunset today. You can see the sky behind me preparing, and the fact that now we're in autumn, it gets dark a little bit earlier, and everybody is leaving the expo at the same time. I really hope you've enjoyed this video and this walk around of the WorldFood Moscow Expo. I will put the information about it in the description, the website, and then all of the, I guess, statistics about the event. I think you saw on the video all the different countries that were represented, and all of the different brands. And we even saw Australian products. Can you believe it? Australian products here at the Expo. Maybe I shouldn't be so surprised that I saw macadamias available. Now I've come up with a secret word that you can use in the comments, and depending on the word you want to write, this is paprika spice rub. So if you put the word paprika or spices or spice rub, I know you've made it to the end. This is actually an Italian company that I filmed right at the end, and the guys there at that counter were so interesting. I was chatting to them until we were literally being kicked out now, and they're getting everybody to go home until tomorrow. And I got a couple of these to take back to my wife because she's doing all of the different cooking at home, so she'll be super happy. Italian spice rub. Very cool. Since 1920 as well. So if we see that in the comments, I know you've made it through the video. If you did like it, give it a thumbs up. I do want to say a big thank you to all the people that I met today who were either subscribers or people at the different booths. There is an ambulance wanting to get through the main road here. This is the Macad right here, which is probably the busiest ring road in Moscow by a long way. And this is exactly rush hour when everybody's going home now at 6 p.m. So naturally, it's going to be a little bit congested. I've got about an hour and a half on the metro to get home. Actually, the metro and then a suburban train. So thanks everybody so much. If you want to see my Telegram channel, it'll be right here. And then if you want to watch another video on the channel, lets me find something interesting for you, and you can keep traveling with Russell. Okay everybody, I'm off on another adventure. Bye.